Welcome to the Board Game Snobs podcast. Critically harsh reviews with a touch of class.
And welcome to another episode of Board Game Snobs. I almost forgot. I have too many podcasts. Actually, I have like one other podcast, but I almost said its name instead of Board Game Snobs. But today, we have a singular snob. I'm Gaby. Fortunately, Jerry is unable to be here. He's busy doing who knows what. But we have a special guest today, Bernardo. Correct?
Yeah, Bernard. Yeah, is my name. Correct.
Bernard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. I think, okay, yeah. I read that wrong. I made you something else. You're just Bernard.
Yeah, Bernard is just perfect.
Bernard's here today to discuss Fractal Beyond the Void.
Yeah, sound the name, right? What do you think?
Fractal. Okay, so I had to look up Fractal, and there's like a Wikipedia, like I do not understand anything I read what Fractal meant, so... how did you come upon the name Fractal? And not just Fractal. Then I realized on Board Game Geek, there's another Fractal. So maybe you realize, oh, there's already a Fractal. Let us go beyond the void.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with that name?
Oh, wow. That's a pretty long story, but yeah, but actually it's an interesting story. Long time ago, when we started working in the design of the game, we come up with a lot of ideas of how to build the map and how to build the campaign of the game. And when we figure out the composition of the campaign and the game by itself, the map construction, we find out that it has followed the same path and the same construction as a fractal. So I have a company that provides services in statistics. I am a professional in statistics, and I run statistics for governments, airplanes, video game companies, board game companies. And for a long time, I found pretty interesting doing some game because we always be in the backstage of the games. So one day we figure out, well, we were taking a lot of time working in this in this industry, but it's time to take a step ahead. So when we start working on the game, we figure out that the game behaved like a fractal. So we decide why not name the game Fractal. So the campaign composition follow the same construction elements of a fractal, that is repeating itself in some kind of that the fractal is this kind of composition in the nature that repeat itself in multiple times. So that's the idea of the campaign by itself.
So your game is on Kickstarter. How long is your Kickstarter going for?
We are the campaign open only for 20 days. We decided to make a small compact version of the campaign compared to other campaigns that long and don't last like 13 days. We try to compress and condense all the events and community events that we have prepared for the community. We felt that it's way better. Most of the games actually get funded in less time that they already need to create or collect the backers.
I saw y'all are already funded, right? Y'all did well.
Yeah, pretty well. This is not the first game that I work. I work in a lot of fantasy flight games, and Forbidden Star. But as I tell you, as a backstage, I'm making the numbers, not the game design by itself. I work with the Board Game Inc. for a time working in Exodus, and we did a really interesting job with this game. And our first campaign reached, I don't remember well in dollars, but we doing pretty well. And this campaign is actually going pretty well. And just after 2 hours, we were fully funded. So thank you for the community for that.
Very nice. So how do you say your full name?
My full name, that's a quiet namer. Bernard Rippe Didio Castagna. because
Oh,
my father come from Germany, my mother come from Italy. When they meet and travel to US, I actually travel in a lot of place because my work. They join and meet together, but actually it's a mixture of German and Italian last names. It's quite difficult to pronounce.
so where do you live now? Are you in the
Um,
United States or?
yeah, we had a base of operation in Orlando, and we have a base of operation in Spain. So my family live in Spain, and I travel constantly to America. But actually, we are right now in Spain, in Bilbao. We had one of the founders of the company is come from Spain. The other ones is come from for France.
See, that's the nice thing about Europe. And Europeans get to travel more. I feel like I'm sure there's people that tend to stay home, but United States is so big. Like I'm good. I do good to leave Texas every now and then.
I love
Texas alone
Texas.
is huge.
Boston is quite interesting place to visit. The last time I were there, it's a quite interesting city.
I've never been there. I'd like to go there. I've been to New York City.
Hmm.
I've been up kind of like the East Coast, and let's see. I'm trying to think of where else have I been to. That may be about it. I don't travel much, not as much as I'd like to.
Yeah, people in Europe travel a lot, because well, it's something similar to the States, in North America. People just get a train and you're in Paris and you're in Belgium or in Italy or something like that. So people is it's more different kind of culture between countries. So it's nice interacting with people in Austria, for example, or French people. It's quite different. And United States is similar in some way, but it's a really huge country. I love your country, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, you travel far here, you pretty much end up seeing the same type of culture. It doesn't change as greatly as it does in Europe, so that's interesting. But I'm trying to place your accent. What would you say your accent is?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, how many times did you open this small this channel? It's quite interesting. I follow some of your podcasts in the past, and I found it pretty interesting and fresh to watch, to hear, not to watch. Sorry.
Ah, okay. I see on your on the I'm looking at your BGG page for your game Fractal Beyond the Void. There's 4 designers. One, two, three, four.
Yeah, it's for designers. But some of them are part of the graphic designers. You know that BGG don't spread the credits. We are a group of 4 people that is commit these last 4 years to create this game and work in graphic design, illustration, art direction, writing, and game design. The initial game design and the game design leader is my full responsibility, but we have a lot of support of Iker and Romain in game design features because they are already designers too.
So, what was kind of your basis or your inspiration for this game? Did you like play another game or something and say, I like this, but maybe twist this and that?
Yeah, this other interesting question. Well, for a long time, I've been a huge fan of Forex in the 90s. The 90s is the big moment of the Forex gender. You have the Master of Orion, StarCraft, and this kind of game that is actually based in this game, the game structure that give life to the modern board games that it called itself like 4Xs. Um, we play a lot Twilight Imperium, Eclipse, and many other 4Xs from GNT, for example, Space 4X, and we really enjoy every of these games. There is no perfect 4X game. Each of the 4X has different type of features and audience, and we enjoy it in a different type of e- emphasis. But we try to do something different in Fractal. The idea is to innovate in some way, because we dislike some of the combat resolution system, and practically the exploration system is quite different. And just to add a new feature in Fractal, we try to add the campaign that is beyond the void. This is one of the questions that backers usually do, because the core game is Fractal, but the Beyond the Void is the first campaign that we're releasing for this game. So this means that in the future, under the Aftermath core system, we're building new campaigns that develop the lore and the story of the game. And I don't know if you're familiar, for example, with the StarCraft, that you play a campaign and this type of scenarios lead you through a story, and this story try to develop some kind of emerging narrative. So Fractal is a branched campaign that is one of the most interesting features, and the Aftermath campaign contains 10 modes that let you modify the game in any way. So if you're into the legacy games, Fractal has some deep campaign with a lot of new components, five different factions, new cards and content for the game, and new scenarios. But if you are not into the campaign, you can browse the expansion, buy the expansion, and use the component freely. We don't want the player be free to use the components in the campaign. But yes, the base of inspiration is maybe Master of Orion, StarCraft, and Forbidden Star is a huge inspiration. I am a big friend of Samuel Bailey, that is the designer of Forbidden Star. Did you know Forbidden Star, Gabriel?
Yes, we've played that a couple times. Enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it's an amazing game. So
Um,
part of the
um,
inspiration was Forbidden Star has one of the best combat resolution system, and we try to do something similar, but more based on rock paper scissors and something more quicker and interesting, like that has a deeper mind game in between. So the conflict resolution in Fractal is something quite innovative. We take the long path here. We take the difficult because we have a different type of options. We can use dices, we can use a lot of combo resolution systems, but we say okay, let's stop here and try to innovate in something new. The new system that we introduce here is quite interesting.
yeah, I was watching the Hungry Gamers preview of your game, and he said he was a big fan of that combat style. And that's something that me and Jerry on the Board Game Snobs, we enjoy. We enjoy games with combat, and there are so many different varieties. Straight up dice or
Mhm.
lay down a card, but yeah, they all feel different. And some of them, I guess, depending on gameplay. There's some games where it's like, oh, when you get to the combat, you would think combat would be the exciting part, but it's like, oh, we
Mhm.
get to combat and it like stops the game because you got to do all these other things to fight each other. And if you can make that flow into the game nice and smooth, it makes it an asset instead of something that stops it.
Yes.
So
Yeah, the
very nice.
downtime, and some of the games suffer with a lot of this downtime between this conflict resolution. We decided in Fractal to split the phases into the macroeconomy of the actions and then the resolution of the conflict at the end of the turn. So it's like a hybrid of Kemet with some of the phases of Eclipse, with something more new and interesting of the rock paper scissors mechanic. Yeah, but conflict resolution is something important in this kind of games. I feel that it's part of the 4X experience.
Hmm.
A 4X without conflict is actually difficult to say that it's a 4X. Maybe it's a 3X or something like that. Yeah.
Is there any sort of like negotiation in this game?
Yeah, well, this is another of the usual question. Yes, there is. In the game, we introduced something that is made in PAX game. Did you know PAX Porfiriana or PAX Renaissance for Phil
I'm
Eklund?
familiar with. We've played PAX Premiere.
Yeah, PAX Memory is a awesome game. We love it. We're a huge fan of PAX game, and the PAX series has something in common, has open information. So in Fractal, we add a pool of action cards that make every game and every cycle and every round of the game different because players are able to perform one of these public actions, and everybody knows what is in there. And this changes the dynamic of the turn or the whole interaction of the players. Some of the cards introduce negotiation. Some of the cards introduce changes on the map by itself. So when you play the game, you never have the same event twice. This is part of the magic of the pack series, and I admire a lot Phil Egnon when his convoluted, interesting experiences they brought with the PAX game. So we have a light PAX game in there in Fractal, And in the aftermath mode, we have some modes that introduce negotiation. That is something quite interesting. The player gain a new unit that is called the emissaries, and this emissary has some kind of hidden agenda. And this hidden agenda, you're trying to negotiate or trade, or maybe betrayal, or try to eliminate other emissaries. And this kind of hidden component of the intrigue, for example, in Pax Porfiriana, you're always playing with the spies, Pax Pamir, I guess. You have playing with these factions and the hidden information that is around the spies, and it's actually quite interesting. So we add the new components and 2 or 3 mechanics that introduce negotiation of the players in a higher level, maybe on a level that has Twilight Imperium.
You mentioned there's a lot of 4X games. So would you say that's like that particular style, that pack style, plus the combat system is what would set your game apart from some of the others, like Eclipse or whatever?
Yeah, that part of the game design is the state of art. If you're trying to do something new, it's just better to look at the state of what other games do better and try to learn about the experience of that designer. And I feel that this is why the board game industry is going forward in components and it's going forward in mechanics. So maybe 20 years ago, you never planned to see some of interesting mechanics like Alhambra or Azul or any other of these interesting new abstract games. Maybe the people is too far behind these design concepts. So as far as the more games are released every year, we have a new mechanics into and the global in-game in mind of the designers come together to bring new stuff. So part of the inspiration of the game comes from PAX and other 4Xs and a new concept of rock paper scissors that it may be shared between Forbidden Star and Kemet.
How long have you been working on this game? Like when did the idea for this start?
Well, wow, all of the hard questions. Well,
was it pre-pandemic or in the pandemic, sitting alone in your home?
Maybe the story started 5 years ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, this is quite a long time. That we will never figure out that building games take too much time, but yeah, it takes a lot of time to build. I was in my studio, back to my office, one of the nights we played Twilight Imperium, and I watch streaming for Master of Orion. I don't remember what, and there's some kind of fan based people in that game that is building some kind of campaign. So I feel that okay, there is no other game that introduced this campaign component into the 4Xs. You will play the 4Xs experience more than 3 or 4 hours, and when we start working in that moment, I just take a piece of paper, and in the next 5 years I never come out from the office. When I finally place on the board with one of my partners, we run a small test and we immediately get the idea of the concept. So we start working on a lot of iterations. We have 10 versions of the games already. Of the game has suffered 10 big changes in the last years, and we finally reached the most stable version of the game. We are pretty near to the end version of the game, and we are pretty happy with the result of these last 5 years of the work.
So a lot of play testing sounds like.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah, that's actually that's interesting because we played these other games of other publishers, and we never get bored playtesting Fractal. And yet after, for example, I maybe have like, I don't remember, 600 playtest session under my belt, and I never get bored playing Fractal. It's actually some of the part of the game interest. You know that you gain you reach a point of exhaustion with game. When you reach like 10 or 20 games, you reach a point of exhaustion. So you don't never brought it to the table again because you're pretty bored again, the same stuff. But yeah, maybe because it's our game and it's always changing, we have all this feeling of new experiences. It's pretty interesting.
How did you manage during the pandemic to do any of this?
Oh wow! Well, this is another interesting question. You're full of interesting question, Gaby.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I have our dear friend Richard Simpson from We're Not Wizards. He's the interview master, and I was like, what do I say? Because we don't do a whole lot of like designer interviews. Usually we just have people on and we chit chat about ridiculous stuff. What's your favorite macaroni and cheese? That type of thing,
Yes.
which I will get to here momentarily. But he helped me out with a few questions to ask. So credit to Richard Simpson.
Thank you, Richard. Okay. Wow, the pandemic was a huge challenge, maybe for all the team. Practically, we need to build two different iterations of the game in Tabletop Simulator, and we're forced to move to Tabletop Simulator, and we need to learn how to script. We need to learn how to use Tabletop Simulator. We find out that Tabletop Simulator was the best platform we found out to run the test, and we have a playtest group in Hungary, and Germany, and Spain, and two in US, and the four groups weren't able to send more copies of the prototype. So we need to pass to the digital version of the game, and we find out that it's actually more easy to build prototypes in Tabletop Simulator. The problem is that you lose a scope, when
Yeah.
you play in games in the digital stuff, and when we finally print after two builds, we finally print a copy of the game, and we find out that some of the stuff that work in Tabletop Simulator doesn't work in the table.
Oh, really?
So
That's interesting.
yeah, we find out that we need to see the Tabletop Simulator as a grain of salt, because this extraction, shuffle index, check information under the card, and some of the stuff are easy in Tabletop Simulator, and handle others in Tabletop Simulator take more time. So the real design need to pass from Tabletop Simulator or to the board in physical version to corroborate the changes you're making. So yeah, full playtest a game in digital version is totally impossible. Board games need the physical components and the physical interaction of players to know how the game is going, and don't make any mistake during the process.
Yeah, I know that Tabletop Simulator has been a savior for most of the designers during this COVID stuff.
Yeah.
So very nice to have at your disposal. But that's interesting that you say that some of the things that worked on tabletop don't work in real life.
Mhm.
That's interesting.
And the
So
negotiation is one of the parts that's more difficult in Tabletop Simulator, because how you negotiate with other person that is behind a microphone. You're
yeah,
looking at the 3D objects in the screen, and it's difficult to let's see. And I'm pretty good at persuasion. I am the kind of person that has enough social skill to combine other people, but I found it pretty difficult in Tabletop Simulator. So yeah, it's actually difficult to translate these negotiation skills in Tabletop Simulator.
I'm not crazy. I find Tabletop Simulator with certain games, it's very tedious, dragging your mouse across, picking up the little pieces, and then scrolling all the way across the table. But I can
Hmm.
definitely see where it has its benefits in the design and playtest regard. So, when do you have anything in particular about Fractal Beyond the Void that you would like? That you want to get out there to like people that are listening or interested in the game? Anything in particular, like your sales pitch of what you're
Yeah,
passionate about this game?
yeah. Actually, I'm pretty happy with the last week. We're running only the campaign in the last 6 days, and the community is awesome. I need to congratulate all the person that commit in the BGG forums. Board Game Geeks is amazing place to show up the games. And we have in these 6 days, the community is run like 25 playtests, and they give me the feedback, and it's quite amazing to see the level of involvement of the players and the backers in the design. So um, Fractal Beyond the Void is a game that is not meant to be designed for a single person. We will open in the future a public recruitment for playtesters. So we need them to build the last polishment for the game, to test the scenarios of the aftermath, to see if the scope or we're looking at is good. So this game is not made for only for us. We want to join the community as we are doing in the last updates, to create new action cards, new technologies, to balance a new system of technology. After 6 days of the campaign, we had two different variants of the rules that two-person in BGG give me, and that's totally amazing. We have a pretty positive responses of the playtesters, and they're backers. They're willing to do this test because they join and find something interesting, and they play this game in the same level as Kemet or Eclipse or any of these area control games. So we are introducing a new concept today that's actually quite interesting. Is alliance expansion. This alliance expansion it meant to include some of gratitude we have to the community. So we want to introduce a pool of action cards, a pool of of technology cards, and a pool of co-op scenarios they can play the game in a other different way, included with any price in the pledge of the campaign. So this is part of the inspiration the people offer to Fractal as a backer. There are the game. We together
Yeah.
can create something interesting, and I really love to see that people are interested in the proposal.
The solo, was that something that came naturally or as a result of the pandemic? The solo's been a big thing now. Or did you say, oh, this we can throw a solo on this easy? I mean, how did the
That's
solo come about? And who designed that part?
well, that's all of interesting question. Other question from Richard, right?
Let me
Oh,
see. No, that was
no.
mine. I'm ready for that one.
Okay, that's another interesting question. 1 year ago, when we started working in the design and publish the BGG profile, we find out that with the lockdown and all the COVID situation, people are looking for more solution to play alone. And actually, we start the automata as experiment, and we find out with a huge challenge in front of us. So we have other company in Spain that is Little House Game. They create a lot of interesting automata mode for games and small casual games. And I hired this company to join me in the process of design the solo game. That's pretty interesting. And the design point for the automata, we have two different paths to choose when we are designing the automata. So we can make an abstraction as any other game do. That is flip a card, the automata gain victory points and gain units. And that's it. It's just the abstraction of the macroeconomy of the unit. That is the shortest path. And we have the long path in front. So I decide to, okay, we want to build automata that doesn't behave like an automata. I want automata that behave like a player, that score like a player, that fight like a player, like recruit and move around the map in the same way as players do. So, well, the result is that we spend 8 months locked down in a basement alone,
Yeah.
printing cards and testing a lot of designs. So finally, we reach an interesting method of building an automata that have 4 different behavior cards. These behavior cards has some kind of different decision making trees, and they have aggressive behavior, defensive behavior, victory behavior, and expansive behavior. And the cards, a random pool of cards, made the behavior of each automata different. So maybe one of the automata focus more in expansion, other of the automata focus in victory, or of the automata push the military forward to the player. So it's more fresh and it's more interesting to have these different dynamics every time you play with against the automata. And the interesting part we finally find out in this experiment is that the automata, because they behave like a player, we can replace a player. So we're able to play, for example, a 4 player count game with
Yeah.
2 automatas against 2 humans, and that's pretty interesting. And we started working in this design concept until finally arrived a solid mechanisms to make it work. And the result is pretty interesting. We had a lot of solid player right now in BG, making a lot of positive comments about the automata and feel more fresh. I know that I lost 8 months of my life, and probably I will lose more, but it worked. it work, and it's something new, and that's the idea of the game. Bring something new to the table.
Well, I think that's going to be something unique because none of the big 4X games, I don't know of any. Well, actually, I guess Exodus has a solo thing, but I've never played it.
Exodus behave more like a rogue-like dungeon crawler. But yes, it's fully solo. It's actually a cooperative game, so it's in nature a solo game.
The game Fractal Beyond the Void by Bernard and a scad of other people that helped you along the way. But what about the man behind the game? What do you do when you're not designing games? What do you enjoy, or is this your life? Is designing games your life? When I'm not designing, I'm playing games. What do you like to do otherwise?
Oh wow, I do a lot of stuff. I enjoy the nature a lot. I enjoy snorkeling and diving. We had a pair of twins, newborns. They have 3 years old. My life is actually quite busy. But I learned. Since I was young, I sleep pretty little hours a day. I don't know why. No one knows why. But I barely sleep 3 or 4 hours a day. So for me, the evenings is my moment, and it's my big moment for the solo gaming and join some of my friends. So I played. I have a lot of games: Star Trek Ascendancy, Underwater Cities, Terraforming Mars. It's actually pretty interesting. A lot of card games. We have a lot of games in here. Imperial Assault. We worked for a long time with Fantasy Flight games, so we have a lot of Fantasy Flight games right here. New Angels. We have Star Wars Legion. Well, and the PAX game. We have a few collection of PAX games. But yeah, I am the type of person that is quite active in the evening. And during the day, I design games and I work in statistics. And during the day and during the part of the late day, I take care of my kids and my family, obviously. And during the evening, I jump deeper into my studio to work only around games. I was working in games like 10 years ago. I started working with a mobile game company from UK that is called Golden Hog Interactive. I don't remember pretty well. And then I jumped into the game industry, and I really enjoy gaming. Since I was pretty young, I enjoyed Dungeons and Dragons. Did you like Dungeons and Dragons, Gaby?
I've never played an RPG up until a few years ago. Once we started this podcast and playing more regularly, we played the Star Wars RPG. I've never played D&D, respectively, but I have played, and we've only played I think we played 3 rounds of that at different times. But I love role-playing games, but we don't have the time to commit to it because it's a little more effort, especially for Jerry is usually he's always the GM, so I rely upon him, and he has an insane life as well. He has children, job, all this stuff, and he's taken on a new job that's even taking more time away from me. But we're trying to make it work. But yeah, sounds like you got a lot going on. You said twins?
Yeah, twins. You can't imagine. Right. People tell me, "Hey, bless you," but the people don't even imagine what is taking care of twins. Yeah, it's actually it's a crazy stuff happening. Super crazy.
I can't imagine. I don't have any children, so having one blows my mind. Let alone 2 at the same time.
Wow, it's crazy.
Well, y'all were prepared for that, I assume.
Yeah,
I mean, as much as you can be. It wasn't a surprise when I said there's another one.
Yeah, it's a surprise. Actually, we're looking for only one kid, and it was a total surprise. But we accepted pretty well. But taking care of twins have some advantages and disadvantages. You don't need to pass again for the stuff of the pregnancy. That is quite hard for my wife, and a lot of women pass for difficult moments during pregnancy. So having the compressed experience of having twins, you save 2 by 1. But the problem is taking care of 2 kids because they're pretty crazy. They're climbing in your studio, destroying all the board games, while the other, yeah, it's super crazy. Yeah. So,
do you have in-laws or grandparents or anybody to help?
Yeah, but because we're moving constantly between
Oh,
Europe and America, some of my kids need to travel with me and my wife, and go to the place that I need to work currently. I work with the U.S. government, making a statistic for some research centers. So we
okay.
need to, my main job with U.S. is running statistics about the epidemics. There is epidemic that attack the cattle and is pretty deadly. So they have an interesting set of research studios, and my main job, is to study the numbers and they make statistical models for the behavior of the pandemic of this plague.
You sound like just the man to design a game.
Yeah,
Statistics are your jam. Wow, that's interesting.
yeah. And some point, actually,
Maybe it sounds more interesting than it is in real life. I don't know.
yeah, actually, when I think the first time to design a game, I thought, okay, if I can handle an airport and a statistic on an airport or a statistic of a pandemic, I can run a statistic for a game. Actually, I'm totally wrong. Building games, building games is actually harder. Because you need okay, statistics is pretty static, and you get the information and you analyze the information and you analyze the pattern in that information. In the game industry is totally different because you need to create something new and start working forward, so over the data you're collecting. So it's more empiric experiment of test and errors. It's not that static like like the common statistics, but yeah, it's more difficult. And I congratulate a lot of the game designers that join this industry because it's quite difficult. And yeah, it's not well paid in some point. You need to be a famous designer to gain a lot of money in this industry. It's not impossible, but it's a really hard, long road you're taking.
Yeah, I've always heard that. It's like don't make a board game expecting to make money unless you
Yeah.
become prolific or very, very well known, at some point.
Hmm.
So, what is your favorite food?
Oh wow.
Do
Well,
you have a favorite food? Like, not necessarily like a whole genre. Like some people might say, oh, I like Italian food, which, in America means spaghetti. But
mhm.
do you have a passion for anything food wise in particular? I like macaroni and cheese a lot. And I've discovered that macaroni and cheese makes a good topping for almost anything, including chili dogs.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, you're
So
totally right. Yeah, that's.
what do you enjoy to eat?
Oh wow, that's a question that led me to a different topic at the end. But I really, because my family, I love Italian food, but I deeply love the Mexican food. I was in Mexico a long time before, and I really love the warmth of the people. The food in Mexico is delicious, and I'm a big fan of the history of America. I enjoy reading about Native Americans, about the Mesoamerican tribes and Incan empires that developed in this Renaissance, during the Renaissance moment. So actually, we have three games under the first stages of development. And one of the games is called Quetzal, and is meant to be a Pax Americana. We are trying to, let's say, reach an agreement with Phil Edmund to build a PAX game that is working around the Native American people and the Mesoamerican tribes in the Aztec Empire during the conquest. So I love America so much
Yeah.
because yeah, I love it. Yeah.
All I'm familiar with Mexican food wise is, the Tex Mex,
Hmm.
they call it. And I know that in actual Mexico, it's somewhat different, I'm sure. But, around here, it's like everything's fried and covered in cheese when it comes to Tex Mex, which I don't
Yeah.
mind. Don't get me wrong. I like it. Okay. So very nice. So the same thing for Italian food. So, like I said, people around here, they think Italian, we think lasagna, spaghetti. It's got to be different there, right?
Yeah, it's super different. Actually, yeah, actually, the food in Italy is actually different depending on the areas. But you can cut the country in two different type of foods. That is the North Italy food and the South Italy food is totally different. People in the north used to use tomato and more sauce, and the people in the southeast try to use more oil and base it in olive
Oh,
oil
okay.
mixture. So it's more Mediterranean in some way, more similar to Greek food, because obviously they have more influence in this kind of areas that in the long past ago were part of the Greek empires, and it take communication with the Greeks for a long time. But yeah, the food in Italy is totally different, and the pizza is something that actually is super different. If you have the time to go to Italy, please see what happened with the pizza, because the pizza, I don't know why the people
It's
are so
not Pizza
crazy.
Hut.
Yeah, and the Hawaiian pizza in US, people
Hmm.
sell the Hawaiian pizza, and that's something that we never do in Italy.
I don't like it myself.
Yeah,
Putting pineapple on pizza is just wrong to me for some reason.
it's super wrong. Yeah. It's
It's
super
super
wrong.
wrong.
I really don't want to kill my personal taste. I don't know if maybe sensitive stuff for some people.
No, I don't know. I know people love it. They're crazy about it, but yeah, very
Yeah,
nice.
I see people fighting because food. And
Yeah, they'll fight about anything. So I'm sure we could start a revolution about pineapple on pizza.
yes, it's very crazy.
What is another one of our favorite topics is movies? What's like one of your favorite movies?
Oh wow, that's more interesting topic. I think that the golden age of films and the scene and the movies is the 90s. The 90s has one of the best psychological thrillers. I really enjoy like the Fight Club, for example, Momentum, and this kind 90s. The Dark City is one of my favorite sci-fi movies for all times. So
Hmm.
I am not too much into the commercial films. I don't really too much the CGI. The CGI. I feel that the CGI is just making the films a little bit cheap, because people forget about the deep of the story. So for me, the story is something that need to be powerful. But I really enjoy the '90s movies. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
I have not seen Dark City, but I hear a lot about it.
You need to see it. It's a really interesting movie.
I'll have to check that one out. What about James Bond? No Time to Die just came out. Interested?
Yeah, actually, James Bond is something like a remnant of the idea of the 90s of the perfect agent, secret agent. You know that this
Mm.
is a cliche around the spying. Um, it's a legacy from the 90s, from the 50s. Yeah, 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
60s,
general
50s.
idea, I like James Bond. I enjoy Casino Royale. It's one of my favorites. Quantum of Solace is not that good, but Casino Royale is based perfectly on the book. I enjoy reading a lot. A lot of books.
Oh,
I
okay.
prefer reading than movies, actually.
Okay. Well, then go to books. Who's some of your favorite authors?
Ernest Hemingway is one of my favorites. Ernest
Oh,
Hemingway
wow.
is super deep in the terms of catharsis, because he always plays the perspective of the narrative, and the point of the person that is passing through the different type of different moments. So Ernest Hemingway is always some kind of militaristic stories. Well, for example, I don't remember the title of that book, but it's meant to happen in the revolution in Spain, and the people is just hiding for the revolution, and he go deeper into that catharsis of the fear of the person, and I really enjoy this evocative moment of the Hemingway. It's pretty interesting. I try to read Lovecraft, but it's pretty difficult to read. Everyone love Cthulhu, but
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Me neither.
Yeah, I know what the people like it. It's a creature underwater, an ancient secret, a dark one, and the sects. And I understand what way people like it, but it's too much.
Yeah, neither of us actually are really into the Cthulhu mythos. Not a young adult reader, are you? No YA books for you?
No, no, the new books that they released in the last years.
Yeah, Hunger Games, Twilight.
No, Twilight, no, please. Yeah, Hunger Games is actually interesting, and I enjoy Game of Thrones. But high fantasy is something that you need to pick pretty carefully. Game of Thrones is more low fantasy, but the Lord of the Rings is one of the most interesting fantasy books I read. It's actually pretty long, but it's quite interesting to read. Yeah, but
Yeah.
this new commercial Harry Potter, for example, is something that I prefer something more immersive and less. I don't know. It's not the term commercial. I don't know what is the term, but I prefer something more darker or
Hmm.
more immersive around emotions.
Very nice. Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Bernard. Do you have any last comments, questions, anything?
Well, actually, thank you first, Gaby, because this podcast was awesome. I really have a really nice time with your surprise questions.
Oh,
I honestly, I honestly think that you were stalking me for a month, actually, because this
oh
question
wow.
is well prepared. You're pretty well prepared with these questions.
Oh
Uh,
wow. Thank you.
so no, well, thank you to the community of Fractal. I really love the reaction of the people, and I invite more people to look at or even look or campaign or leave us your comments, leave us a small visit to the BG profile of Fractal Beyond the Void and try to see what is happening just right there. We're trying to do something different. We're a company that doesn't care about money. We are care to release a good game is our main objective, and this game can only be built if we work as a community. And if we shared our ideas, if we shared our perception about the modern state of the board games, legacy games are actually interesting. We don't want to destroy the components, but we are a pure legacy mode in the campaign. But actually, I'm pretty sad destroying the pandemic legacy. Did you play pandemic legacy? I can't destroy the card. I can. I just can't destroy it. I can't do
We've
it.
been trained completely different. They're trying to retrain our brains.
Yeah. But actually interesting, and thank you so much for this for your time here, Gaby, and it's quite an enjoyable moment.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad to have you on. It's been very pleasant, and I wish you much continued further success and come back anytime.
Thank you so much, Gaby.
Thank you for listening to the Board Game Snobs. Stay classy.